My name is Eitan. I'm the sales manager for EBSCO Israel. I wanted to thank you all for attending today's webinar, and it's titled Evolution and Transition, EBSCO Research Services and a Focus on the Future. I think we will have a really engaging session planned for you today. Before we begin, and so you all know, the session is now being recorded. All the attendee lines are now muted to avoid any sound feedback or interruptions. If you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to communicate with me or Luciana, who's also hosting this along with me and Gianluca. And we will try to resolve. If you have any questions for the presenters, for Gianluca, please feel free to enter them into the chat box at any time, and we will answer them after each presentation. Now, without any further ado, I would like to introduce today's host, Gianluca Di Bella, who's the Vice President of Sales at EBSCO. Gianluca, over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eitan. Thank you, everyone, for participating at this session. I know that you are all muted. I hope that you will not hear the music coming from upstairs my apartment, because there is loud music there. I hope it will not disturb us. So I'm very excited to introduce this webinar that will explore this evolution and transition in libraries and how we as EBSCO are looking to support this transition. And when we talk about evolution and transition, we consider how we can best address evolving experiences and expectations in teaching, learning, and research. And we do this in an area of incredible abundance of information. So to illustrate this point, I found this observation in World Economic Forum article from April 2019, looking at how much data is generated each day. And it is basically quite astonishing. It says that the entire digital universe is expected to reach 44 zettabytes by 2020. If this number is correct, it will mean there are 40 times more bytes than there are stars in the observable universe. So we think that the amount of data and information that is continuously gets generated and that exists in the world today, where do we sit as organizations whose mission is basically to collect, organize, and disseminate information, understand its impact, and at times even supports its creation. Now, at EBSCO, our mission is to transform lives by providing relevant information and reliable information when, where, and how people need it. So we seek to fulfill this mission by partnering with libraries all over the world, all over the globe. And in this session, we are going to unpack this mission statement, looking at our strategic focus and our product development. So we will ask, in an era of information abundance, how do we think about relevant or reliable information? What are the expectations of today's users who need to find and access said information? And what are the ways that we can support libraries in their roles of supporting teaching, learning, and research as approaches to information creation, access, and management evolve? So we look at evolution and transition across three main areas that you can see over here. So the first speaks to how information is consumed. The focus here is on the user, mainly, whether it's a teacher, a faculty member, a student, or a researcher, and her and he or his expectations to find, access, and use reliable information, whether it's in teaching, learning, or research. This is an area where we at EBSCO have been focused on for quite a long time. So let's say that we will start from here, looking at the user needs and how we are evolving our solutions to meet the evolving user expectations as well. The second area of focus is basically the creation of information. So how does research get done, shared, and understood? Here, of course, we are looking at ways in which research is conducted by researchers within a certain institution, and how do researchers collect data, they run their analysis, they document their methods, what are the challenges that we see here today, and how can we help address those challenges. Consider, of course, that the ways in which researchers do their work, the platforms that they use, impact on the library's ability to collect, preserve, and disseminate, and also understand the impact of the work. So we will look at our approaches to support researchers and address their challenges, while addressing the challenges in the library's ability to collect the institution research output as well. And the third area focus that we will focus on is management. So we can say that libraries today have an ongoing need for choice in their workflows. They need flexibility for how information in its different manifestations is managed in support of teaching, learning, and research. So here, specifically, we will look at the library services platform and EBSCO support to for Folio, an open source solution that seeks to address the limitations of legacy systems and support evolving needs for innovation and choice in library workflows. Before proceeding, it is important to keep in mind that the idea of open has become increasingly important across content and software. So it's important to highlight how we look at open in general. The first is, and we will do it through these various points. So the first one being transparency. We believe that as a provider of commercial services, we must be open in our approach to how we surface the information through the different platforms that we use. So while free search engines do not share their inner workings with the world, so what's basically happening behind their scenes and behind their search engines, commercial vendors certainly should do so, and EBSCO does that. Secondly, we have interoperability. Interoperability is fundamental to supporting an open infrastructure in which applications from different providers can connect, so libraries can choose those solutions that best respond to their needs and to their challenges. It is here that we believe that open source and share standards are very important, and we will talk more about this thing during this presentation. The third principle that you see listed here is access, and we look at open access and open science, ensuring that users can access and can discover open access content alongside content that may not be open access, and that we support our customers' open science goals and maintain as well and different mandates as well. So it is important that we think of access and we look at the functionality of our solutions that supports access to information in the most seamless and optimal way, addressing and solving the problems of our users. And last of the list, even if not less important, is partnerships. We believe that we want to support different, and multiple choices. So we cannot like assume that one single company can provide all solutions. So certain companies are experts in some fields in certain areas, and so only by partnering we can open up new opportunities, new possibilities for our customers to have integrated solutions between service providers, and we can also look at EBSCO as one of the companies that can provide those supporting services. So evolution and transition. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to start with consumption, the first focus area, and look at how we can actually address our users' needs to find, access, and use reliable information. EBSCO, of course, has been a provider of content platforms for many years, and we support research, teaching, and learning through our EBSCO host platform that most of you probably know, and also our EDS, our discovery service. And as we evolve these platforms, these services, we also look at how best to address users' needs, and we consider the following fundamentals. So the first, and we start like from the ground up to the top, according to the arrow here describing the three stages. We look at the reliable content, so reliable, trustworthy, and quality content. We will talk about this in the following slides, but fundamentally we think here of talking about full text and metadata, and also what we include basically in our databases and our EBSCO Discovery Service Index. Next is our search technology, and this is to an area of continuous investment and development as we seek to ensure that any user can find meaningful, relevant information, and also learn in the process and discover new insights in their discipline or their area of study. And last is the very top is the user experience and the user interface of our solutions. This is also an area of ongoing development as we look at user expectations and align those expectations to the experiences that users enjoy on our platform. So it's like a blend of everything. A few notes about content and what we include in our database and discovery service as we consider the quality, depth, and breadth of the data that is searched, as you all know. Of course, we ensure that we have the most comprehensive coverage of subject areas and full text searching of scholarly journals on one side, books from publishers, but also university presses, content, and also content coming from scholarly societies. I also should know that we ensure that no predatory journals, meaning journals that include articles of dubious quality or legitimacy, are included in our databases. And this is an ongoing process. We have a dedicated staff made of librarians who review the journals and the contents and flag anything that should not hit any of the databases that we produce. We do that thanks to the Cabell list that you all probably heard about. Now, while full text searching is useful for completeness, precision is vital when users are retrieving thousands or millions of articles and books. And this is where subject indices come in. Nearly every area of study has some kind of authoritative subject index. For example, we have PsycInfo for psychology from APA. We have Inspect for engineering from IET. We have CINAHL for nursing, and so forth. So subject indexes are, in essence, high-quality mini discovery services for their own disciplines. So by leveraging subject indexing in our search technology, we support precision in the search experience and provide better results, better matches at the top of the result list. So going back to the fundamentals of search, I said that subject indexes are fundamental for a depth discovery experience, an early area of study. But keeping our objective in mind, we want to provide users with an equitable search experience, meaning you don't really need to be an expert user to get expert results, to get very good results. And we want to deliver meaningful results for any queries that is done. So, in addition to that, we look at the experience of our platforms as one that should provide for a true learning environment. So it starts then with our search algorithm and how we rank the different results. And you can go to our website or just Google relevance ranking to understand exactly how our methodology works. As I noted, the first priority is basically to match on subject headings from controlled vocabularies. Next, however, is what we built very recently. It's a knowledge graph, and we do that by mapping subjects to different vocabularies and their natural language equivalents, and a vast array of synonyms and also concept and natural language in over 280 languages and dialects. This means that a user who may not know the exact term to use or which specific platform or resource to consult will now be connected to the different terms that represent the same subject and will then be able to access the subject-specific resources as well. And I will show you an example of this later on. Now, by leveraging the knowledge graph, we can also visualize the relationships, and we do this in what we call a concept map. The concept map provides our users an opportunity to see the specific connections between the concepts and that they might not have been aware of. So through our approach to search, the focus is going to be on subject, a semantic graph, and the visualization of the results. So we enable users to find the most relevant information, discover and explore the different connections across the topics, and gain more insights. This is the example that I was talking to you before. So you can see how a search for learning aids maps to the different terms in the different subject-specific resources. So for example, learning aids are called instructional materials in ERIC or in MLA, International Bibliography, or educational resources in JREF. So they have different terms that basically mean the same thing. This really allows users to fine-tune their search and go to a level deeper in their exploration by getting an understanding of the different terms and resources that are available to them. We talked about the fundamental of search. So now we want to talk about the fundamentals of the user experience. Users have grown accustomed to a certain journey and certain experiences on commercial websites that you can see represented here. So they are used to a personalized dashboard rather than sharing options, recommendations. So these things that are common to every platform. So we are learning from these experiences and taking an evidence-based approach in our product development, learning from the user experiences, from their behaviors, their data, the expectations that they have, and looking at commercial solutions and synthesizing the expectations by adjusting them to a library environment. How do we do this? This is basically, we said that the user experience is a journey that takes place through these different four stages, I would say. So as I mentioned earlier, under, let's say the users take similar journeys with different platforms like Netflix or Google or Amazon. So they're very used to certain dynamics. So rather than reinvent something that already existed, we try to get the best out of these platforms and adapted our platforms to with these functionalities. So that EBSCO Host and EDS now have this functionality as well. So we got the most popular functionalities, and by doing so, we wanted to specifically address some questions like where and what, how do our users access resources? What device do they use? How do they authenticate? From which environments do they come from? How does the user go about searching for what they're looking for, and what is their user strategy? How does the user choose from the resources that are useful and available to them? What kind of tasks does the user complete with their own chosen resources? How do they archive, annotate, and present their work? And as we consider these questions and how to address them, we took an evidence-based approach by listening to customers, conducting user research, and learning from data. So this is to highlight a few things that we emphasize in the journey of a user. And we can start with, well, let's say that it goes without saying that we support access for any users, including the visually impaired. So for years, EBSCO has maintained the highest level of accessibility standards and partnering with organizations across the globe, like, for example, the Royal School for the Blind in the United States. And furthermore, we support cross-device research. So users may want to start their search on a mobile device, for example, and then continue the same search on a desktop or on a laptop. So it's all about carrying over the experience from one tool to another one. Next, to the left is integrations. Consider that many users can start their search in other environments, not specifically on a database or not specifically in a discovery service. They can use, for example, their learning management system like Canvas or Blackboard, or from even Google Scholar. And here it's imperative that we support easy linking to the full text of an article and provide customers the ability to choose the source of that specific full text. And then we need also to support the standards-based authentication and single sign-on to make the user experience with the library and with the resources as seamless as possible. So examples include the SAML compliant identity solutions, or the support that we provide for Open Athens, that is one of our partners, for their identity and access management tool, but also we support all the social authentication as well. Moving on, I was telling you about the experience of the user, and what does actually the user experience encounter when they get to use the interface, our interface. So here, the evolution of our platform focuses on delivering the features and functionality that users have come to expect, as we were saying before, in a modern environment. So a personalized dashboard, for example, to manage their own projects or to see previous queries that they conducted, but also ways to easily start research through Wikipedia-like tools like Research Starters, for example, or to put a like item or on an item, or to have an easy way to cite an article, for example, or to add that specific journal article or any piece of research to their project. So they would like to see something easy to use, seamless to use. And then have a modern way to read, for example, an ebook. So through a new ebook reader, providing the user to download, for example, individual chapters of the book, or even to search within the book itself. Here I show a few examples of features that we are building into our product interfaces. It's important to note that we always take privacy first approach to personalization, uploading, let's say, library values around user privacy and data ethics at any time. So we always put, I would say, privacy before any personalization that might occur on our platform. And we also need to express one additional note on the user experience as it relates to the consumption of the information of our experience. We, let's say that alongside the article, we should be able to surface different manifestations of information. So, for example, videos or mathematical formulas, for example. Now, keep in mind that the article is the advertisement of the research, which may be comprised of underlying computational code, data, or even research methods. We need to surface those components of the research at the same time of the article itself. And we also, as we consider these components of research, we can now look at where and how these components are created to begin with in order to improve their dissemination and discoverability. So let's do that in the following slide. Creation, and that's where creation of information takes place. So here we look at how and where information is created, and so how research is conducted, shared, and also understood, and how the library can partake in supporting those workflows that subsequently improve their collection, preservation, and discovery of research. When it comes to research, in a way, there are two central players. The researcher who does actually the work, collecting data, running analysis, running a script to produce documenting methods. And then there is the academic institution, which of course supports its researchers in their daily work. And both players face different challenges. The researchers, for sure, looks for ways to be more efficient and not to redo the work that has already been done by others, to easily reproduce the work done by others. So better collaborate and gain feedback from peers, to publish not just the piece of article, as we were saying a few slides back, but also the components that made that article and get credit for it. And also to comply with open science mandates by funders and to adhere to data retention policies set by his or her institution. And then we have the institution and the library in particular that needs ways to collect all the work, the data, the code, the methods. And this is very, I would say, challenging because especially when researchers don't have a centralized platform to do their work. So how then do we not just collect, but also optimize its discovery, ensure its preservation, and importantly, gain insight? So, for example, to what extent is the institution's research used by other researchers in other institutions? So, to illustrate the difficulties, we can look at an example of a graph in an article like this. As you can see, on the left-hand side, there is the article, and then the article contains a graph. Researchers would have a problem getting to the graph itself, or methods that undertake the output. So if researchers have this problem, so does the library. And this means that there is no easy way to collect, preserve, and disseminate the underlying components of research. So how do we do that? How do we overcome that problem? It all starts by bringing researchers and the library together, where the library provides researchers those platforms that enable them to work more efficiently, ready to reuse, reproduce, and get credit for work, improve collaboration, teaching, and learning. And at the same time, by supporting researchers in their work, the library supports open science's goals, collects and preserves the output for improved discovery, access, and insights. EBSCO is now collaborating basically with a few companies, has partnered with some of them to overcome these problems. One company is called Protocols.io, the other one is called CodeOcean, and the third one is called Archivum. The first two companies provide centralized platforms to conduct research more efficiently, so to better collaborate. They provide ways to share research and support teaching and learning. Archivum instead provides preservation of research mainly. So these platforms are now available through EBSCO, and they all allow the researchers to improve how they work, while the library can better collect the work and also manage it as part of their overall collection. So basically, these platforms help both sides, both players. And this brings us to the next area of focus, which is basically the innovation in information management. Here we look at the evolving needs in library workflows and how we can be more efficient for sure, but beyond this, how we can innovate and manage information in new ways, in a new fashion. And it behooves us to start by looking at the integrated library system, still considered to be the central technology investment by the library, and the problems or challenges that we need to address. Here is the representation of a traditional legacy library system, and this includes integrated modules with predefined functionality for discovery, circulation, cataloging, reporting, etc. And all these modules are pretty much slotted into one piece and preset. And the question, of course, is what if you want to change something? What about if you want your system to do more than what these modules can actually do? So extending or building functionalities is not always possible. So, or if anything, this has to be done by its creator, by the vendor. To take the furniture analogy a little bit further, what may be more desirable is a system like this, where you have the traditional functions, but where you can also extend into new areas and do so readily without the dependency on a single provider. that type of modern approach has long been out of reach. In many ways, the reason for this is simply being market or industry dynamics. Over the last decade, we have seen a lot of consolidation in our industry with less and less companies, and less companies usually mean fewer options. And in essence, we have seen how an essence of handful of systems are provided by a small number of vendors who build solutions within a single monolithic framework. Think of a walled garden with very delimited borders where you can just get out of it. And that approach is somewhat obsolete, even in software. Consider that the modern state of the software is to be open and to have the opportunity to choose a vast array of applications on top of open platforms. And you can think of this as the stuff that you may want. So a running list of things that you would like to get done for your system, improvements that you would like to see, or enhancements, or even developments that you would like to see from your vendor. And yet you are often left to advocate for enhancements at a user group, but have little control over the priorities and very few options to work with a vendor of your choosing to get the things done. This is exactly how the Folio project came about. This is a result of the recognition that choice is limited and interoperability or extensibility, so to speak, may be lacking, and that the vendor-library relationship had to change to support more choice and more innovation. So Folio is a community-driven library services platform. It's open source and yet supported by many vendors, including EBSCO and our partners worldwide. So what is Folio? Folio is the first completely new library services platform, and it has no legacy code and has been written completely from ground up. As a library services platform, it integrates print and electronic resources management and supports traditional functionality like acquisitions, circulations, discovery, cataloging, and so on. And it also allows for the integration of applications from third-party providers, such as archiving and preservation modules. It can do so because of a modern architecture, which is based on microservices, allowing different platforms and different teams from different vendors or even libraries to develop applications and integrate those into the platform. Furthermore, Folio is a community-driven platform. So the requirements are defined by library peers that, and we have, in fact, many librarians that contribute domain expertise. And last, Folio sits in the open source Open Library Foundation. So as you all know, the Open Library Foundation is an organization dedicated to open source in libraries. Of course, when you hear open source, you immediately think that open source is good for libraries. And we have seen this as a real fact by surveys that we have conducted. And librarians also expressed that there is room for an open source tool, which can be a good alternative to legacy systems. But many other libraries also express some concerns with the amount of work that is required to implement an open source tool. And as a matter of fact, you can see that only 30% of librarians said that they would use an open source as a result. So this is where actually EBSCO can come in, and also our partners can come in. We can provide implementation, we can provide support, we can provide hosting for Folio, and this means that you don't need to worry about supporting the platform yourself or hiring additional staff to do it. We thereby also work with to integrate Folio with the EBSCO solutions, also for discovery, for serials, for book ordering, with the knowledge base, users report, analytics. So every piece of the puzzle. And when required, we can also integrate with third-party environments, for example, the student information system. This is a representation of the global community for Folio so far. As I was saying before, there are many libraries worldwide that participate in the project. These are a few names. These are additional names, and they give their contribution to the project with their own expertise. This is a list of libraries that are live today. There are some that are going live this year. For example, there is a little, we should have the Florence National Library that went live already, so it should be actually listed in the first column. And then on the right-hand side, you can see those libraries going live next year. So bringing all this together in an EBSCO ecosystem, on the left, you can see our services for discovery, knowledge base, Gobi, EBSCOnet for ordering and analytics. I'm sorry. And they're all perfectly interoperable with Folio as an open source, but also with other legacy ILS, as you can see from the slide. And here, interoperability would be constrained not just by possibly the architecture of the legacy integrated system, but by business practices rather. Let's say that Folio removes such constraints because it's, as I said before, it is community driven and it's open source. So this leaves many options for interoperability with external environments, as well as ILL, preservation, authentication, and campus solutions as well. So summarizing, and we go back to one of the first slides that I showed you, we look at the evolution and transition across the spectrum of consumption, creation, and management of information. Throughout this framework, we focused on the reliability of information, the sophistication and continuous development that we are providing to our search technology, and the evolution of the user experience to meet the evolving expectations of the users. Then we consider where and how information is created. So we look at ways to improve how research is done, with the parallel goal of improving how libraries can actually collect, manage, preserve, and disseminate the research and understand its impact. And finally, we support Folio and provide the services for Folio, so libraries can benefit from a community-driven solution that is basically built for innovation and have peace of mind with EBSCO and our partners. So basically, this is how we look at the management of the information today and how it is consumed and created. I want to be careful all the time. It's probably 350 over there. It's 250 here. and I would like to see if we have any question that I can answer to.
There is
So
one
there's
question here on the chat, Gianluca.
okay.
How our institution can join Folio community?
Okay, so there are different ways that we can join, the libraries can join the Folio community. We have created a specific site, which is www.folio.org, and basically everything is explained there, but there are what we call SIGs, which are libraries can participate in creating specific groups, interest groups for a specific app or a specific topic, and the group doesn't have to be local. I mean, there might be there are actually groups that are made up of different libraries worldwide, or there's also the possibility to create a local group. So let's say one group in Israel specifically dedicated to one need of that Folio needs to address. So that's one way. Or simply you can be interested in also developing one app. So that's another way to collaborate, see which could be an interesting application to develop if the university or if the university has the human resources to do so, or simply just receive information on the different releases of the software, because obviously we have made different, there have been many different releases of the software so far, and just be kept abreast of which are the latest evolution in the software and what is basically done by other actors, other players in the world.
I don't see any other questions. Feel free to add in any other questions in the chat to all attendants if you have any further questions.
Let's wait a couple of minutes just to see if any question comes up.
No? Okay. So let's just wrap up. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to attend our webinar. I hope you found the session informative and engaging. A big thank you, of course, to Gianluca for the presentation, and we hope to see you all on next sessions. By the way, the link to the webinar series has been posted or will be posted into the chat box soon. So you can use that for accessing. So have a good rest of the day, everyone, and thanks again for joining. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Thank you.